Today, we're going to dive into a story that is a complete and total paradox. It's about a man who became one of the most influential legal thinkers in history, but without ever meaning to.
I mean, how does a person, a truly brilliant scholar, go through their entire life and not publish a single solitary word? And then, somehow, after he's gone, he becomes this foundational voice that completely shapes the way future generations think? It's a real puzzle, and that's exactly what we're going to solve today. Okay, so the key to this whole mystery is a man named Rabbi Yehuda Rasanes, a giant of a figure from the Ottoman Empire, whose masterpiece was, believe it or not, a historical accident. So let's set the scene. Rabbi Rasanes is living in Constantinople back in the late 1600s, early 1700s. And you've got to understand, this guy was not some academic hiding away in a study. Nope, he was a man of the world, a respected banker, a community leader, and a fierce opponent of the destructive Sabbatean movement. But when he passed away in 1727, it looked like all his revolutionary ideas were going to die right along with him.
And this quote, which people attribute to him, just perfectly nails who he was. He saw zero contradiction between intense, deep scholarship, that's the book, and being actively involved in the real world, that's the sword. For him, they weren't separate. Each one made the other sharper.
So when he passed away, his entire legacy was on the brink of disappearing. All that was left was this chaotic jumble of personal notes, just scattered all over his library. And this, right here, is where the story gets really wild.
So, the big question is why? Why didn't he publish? And the answer is pretty incredible. It was all about humility. Just pure, profound humility. He was genuinely afraid that if he published his work, people would think he was trying to pick fights or criticize the great scholars who came before him. So he just kept it all to himself.
After he died, his student, a man named Rabbi Yaakov Kuli, decided he had to do something. He couldn't just let his teacher's life's work vanish. But what he found? Wow, it was an absolute editor's nightmare. We're talking notes scribbled in the margins of books in this tiny, impossible-to-read handwriting, a huge draft of a work called Sefer HaSimanim, a personal diary, piles of legal letters. It was a total mess.
And then, as if that wasn't bad enough, something truly tragic happened. 3 of Rabbi Rasanes' most finished, polished books were stolen right after he died, and they've never been seen since. They're just gone, lost to history. Rabbi Kuli was just devastated, and you can feel it when you look at the final book he published. Over and over again, he writes this little note in the margins, Chaval al-Davdin, woe for that which is lost. It's like this constant, painful echo of all the incredible knowledge that was just gone.
But you know what? That loss just made him more determined. Rabbi Kuli was not going to let the rest of his teacher's genius fade away. He decided he was going to take this complete chaos of notes and somehow turn it into a timeless classic. For 2 years, think about that, 2 whole years, he did the painstaking work. He gathered every single scrap of paper he could find. He figured out how to read that crazy handwriting. And then, here's the brilliant part, he started to organize it. He took all these random thoughts and brilliantly structured them as a commentary on the great legal code of Maimonides. He literally built a masterpiece out of fragments. He even gave it a killer name. Mishneh Lamelech. This title is just pure genius. See, on the one hand, it means second to the king, which is a nod to Maimonides' great work, the king of legal codes. But it's also a clever acronym. Melech, the Hebrew word for king, is an acronym for the 3 major commentators who came before Rasanes. So with this title, the editor was basically announcing, this book is the next big thing.
And he was totally right, because what was inside this book, it wasn't just another commentary. Oh no, it was a complete revolution in how you even think about the law. Okay, so think about it like this. The old way of doing things was mostly about smoothing over contradictions between old texts. It was like you have a map of the law, and your job is to follow it. But Rabbi Rasanes, he did something totally different. He didn't just care about the map, he wanted to know how the map was made. He dug deep into the abstract principles behind the laws and started asking all these theoretical what-if questions that nobody had asked before. And you can see it all over his writing. He's always using phrases like, one must investigate, or we need to really dig into. He was obsessed with borderline cases, pushing a law to its absolute limit to see where it breaks, just to understand what it's really about. This was a massive shift towards a new analytical method that would later be called Lamdanut. And he was the guy who kicked it all off, completely by accident. All right, but here's the real question. Did any of this matter? I mean, did this new method catch on? Did this book, pulled together from scraps, actually make a difference? Well, the answer is a huge, resounding yes. And we've got the receipts. The proof is right in the data.
Let's just take one example. The great Rabbi Akiva Eiger, one of the biggest names in the next century. Guess how many times he quotes Rabbi Rosanes' book? At least 395 times. That's not a book you just have on your shelf. That's a book you are constantly in conversation with.
And it's not just him. Look at this. The authors of the next generation's biggest blockbusters, the Ketziot and the Nevi'tot, they're citing the Mishnah Lamelech hundreds of times, way more than any other book from that period. His ideas didn't just survive, they became the launchpad for the next 100 years of legal thinking.
And just like that, the puzzle is solved. The man who never published a thing becomes this incredible bridge connecting the intellectual worlds of the Ottoman Empire and Europe. His accidental masterpiece, Rescued from the Brink, literally gave scholars the conceptual tools that would build the very structure of modern Jewish law.
You know, the story of Rabbi Rosanes is amazing. It's about a student's loyalty, for sure, but it's also about how a powerful new idea can just explode onto the scene, even against all odds. And it really makes you wonder, right? What other masterpieces are out there, just hiding in the margins of history, waiting for someone to find them?